The grave has already been dug. The coffin has already been built. The eulogy has already been written by the universe, and it is being whispered into the roots of every tree that has watched you carry a weight that was never yours to bear. You are facing death, Virgo, not the death of your body, not the death that comes with a hospital gown and a final breath, but a death far more absolute, far more terrifying, and far more necessary. The death of who you have been. The death of the version of yourself that learned to survive by making yourself small. The death of the identity that accepted crumbs because it was taught that the whole loaf was reserved for other people. The death of the self that apologized for taking up space, that negotiated its own worth down to a price everyone could afford, that believed abundance was a language spoken by everyone except your bloodline. That self is dying, and the funeral is happening now, whether you have RSVP'd or not. You can feel it, can you not? The vertigo. The way the floor beneath your familiar routines has begun to feel less like foundation and more like the lid of a box that is slowly being nailed shut. The way your old preferences taste like ash in your mouth. The way the people who used to comfort you now feel like anchors tied to your ankles while the tide is coming in. The way money specifically, the absence of it, the anxiety of it, the religion of scarcity you were baptized into has begun to feel like a costume that is splitting at the seams. You are facing death. And the part of you that is clinging to the edge of the coffin, fingernails bleeding, screaming that you are not ready, is the exact part that must be buried for the fortune to find you. Because here is the cosmic equation that has never been negotiable. Death precedes resurrection. The seed must crack. The caterpillar must dissolve into soup. The old house must burn to clear the view for the new one. And you, Virgo, have been standing in the burning house trying to rearrange the furniture. You have been trying to make the old self comfortable in a structure that the universe has already condemned. You have been trying to heal what must be killed. You have been trying to renovate what must be demolished. And the exhaustion you have been feeling, that bone deep, soul level fatigue that sleep does not touch, that is the death knocking. That is the body's wisdom telling you that resuscitation is no longer an option. The only way out is through. The only way up is down. The only way to receive the fortune that is stalking you like a lion stalking its destined prey is to first bury the corpse of the person who believed she did not deserve it. Let me describe the old self to you, because naming her is part of the funeral rite. She is the one who checks her bank account with dread instead of curiosity. She is the one who says, "I am fine," when she is drowning, because her needs feel like a debt she cannot afford to incur. She is the one who stays in rooms where she is tolerated because leaving feels like a luxury she has not earned. She is the one who turns her gifts into side hustles instead of empires because the spotlight feels like a punishment she is not strong enough to survive. She is the one who believes that love must hurt, that money must be hard, that rest must be earned, that joy is a brief exception to the rule of suffering. She is the one who inherited the anxieties of her ancestors and mistook them for personality traits. She is the one who apologizes to chairs when she bumps into them. She is the one who waits for permission to exist at full volume. She is the one who believes that a fortune coming to her must be a mistake, a trick, a temporary loan that will be recalled the moment she relaxes. That woman is dying, and you are facing her death every time you look in the mirror and see someone else looking back. Someone fiercer, someone hungrier, someone who is no longer satisfied with the narrative of struggle, someone who is beginning to suspect that the universe is not a cruel accountant but a generous architect, and that the blueprint being unfurled right now has your name written across the header in gold leaf. The death is not gentle. Do not expect it to be. The old self will not go quietly into that good night. She will bargain. She will remind you of every time you failed, every time you were rejected, every time you tried to expand and were smacked back down into your proper place. She will tell you that the fortune is not real, that the opportunity you feel circling is a mirage, that if you let yourself believe in abundance, the rug will be pulled out from under you and the fall will kill you. She will scream that safety lies in the familiar suffering, that the devil you know is better than the angel you do not, that staying broke and broken is somehow more virtuous than becoming rich and whole. She is a liar. But she is a convincing liar because she has been practicing on you since childhood, and her death throes are the anxiety attacks at 3 a.m. They are the sudden weeping in the shower. They are the inexplicable rage at small inconveniences. They are the disorientation of walking through your own life and feeling like a stranger in a story whose plot you no longer remember agreeing to. Let her die, Virgo. Stop performing CPR on a self-concept that was never alive to begin with. She was a construct, a survival mechanism, a set of agreements you made with a world that demanded your diminishment in exchange for your safety. She kept you alive when you needed to stay small to survive. Honor her for that. Then lower her into the ground and cover her with the dirt of your absolute refusal to ever again be less than you are. Because the fortune is coming, and it is not coming to her. It is coming to the you that is being born in the exact moment of her death. I need you to understand the nature of this fortune, Virgo, because it is not what your dying self believes it to be. It is not a lottery ticket. It is not a handout. It is not a stroke of dumb luck that rains down on the undeserving while the worthy continue to toil. This fortune is a karmic correction. It is a repayment. It is the universe's direct response to the decades of precision, integrity, and invisible labor that your old self performed while being paid in pennies and disrespect. Every time you stayed late and were not promoted, every time you fixed what was broken and were not thanked, every time you carried the load for people who could not even carry their own gratitude, every time you chose honesty when lying would have been profitable, every time you maintained your standards in a room full of compromise, the universe recorded all of it. The universe has been accruing interest on your integrity, and the dividend is about to be deposited in a single, life-altering transfer that will make your old bank account look like a toy. I am seeing the specifics of this fortune with a clarity that makes my hands tremble. It is substantial. It is 6 or 7 figures, or the equivalent in assets, opportunities, and doors that swing open with a weight that only wealth can provide. It is arriving through a channel you did not expect. Not the channel you have been obsessively checking, not the job application you submitted, not the person you have been chasing for validation. It is arriving sideways, through a connection you made years ago and forgot, through a skill you developed as a hobby and undervalued, through a piece of property, a creative work, a settlement, a contract, an inheritance, a sale, an investment that you did not even know you had made. It is arriving with the force of a tsunami in a desert, and it is going to hit at the exact moment when the old self finally stops struggling and lets herself be buried. That is the timing, Virgo. That is the precision of the cosmic mechanism. The fortune cannot land in a vessel that is still full of the old wine. The vessel must be emptied, cleansed, broken, and reformed. The death you are facing is the emptying. It is the shattering of the cup that could only hold a few drops, so that a new cup can be formed wider, deeper, made of materials that do not leak, that do not crack under the weight of what they are asked to contain. You are being remade into someone who can hold millions without trembling, someone who can sign checks without sweating, someone who can walk into a room where the furniture costs more than your current annual income and feel not like an imposter, but like a sovereign. But that remaking requires the death of the one who flinches. The symptoms of this death are all around you. You have lost your taste for certain people. Conversations that used to engage you now feel like static. You are physically unable to tolerate the old environments. Your body rejects the food, the air, the sleep patterns of your previous life. You are experiencing what shamans call the little death, the dissolution of the ego that precedes every genuine initiation. And make no mistake, Virgo, this is an initiation. You are being initiated into a new class of being, a new frequency of existence, the class where money is not a god to be worshipped or a demon to be feared, but simply a tool that obeys the command of a clear mind and a clean heart. And the initiation ritual is the funeral of your former self. You are facing death in your relationships. The ones who knew you as the reliable one, the available one, the one who could be counted on to show up even when she was bleeding internally, they are about to meet a version of you who has boundaries made of steel and gates that require a password. They will not like her. They will say you have changed. They will accuse you of thinking you are better than them. And in a way, they will be right. You are better. Not because you are crueler, but because you are no longer available for the extraction of your life force under the guise of friendship, family, or love. The death of the old you means that the all-you-can-eat buffet of your energy is permanently closed, and some people will starve without your nourishment. Let them starve. They were never feeding you in return. You are facing death in your career, or what you have been calling a career. The work that was built on the foundation of your old self's limitations is collapsing. Not because you failed, but because you have outgrown it. The structures that once felt like security now feel like coffins. The title that once felt like an achievement now feels like a tattoo you are ready to laser off. You are being pushed out of the nest of your own competence, forced to fall through the air until your new wings remember how to catch the wind, and the wind is carrying the scent of money, real money, generational money, the kind that does not arrive as a paycheck but as a legacy. You are facing death in your beliefs about what is possible for someone like you, someone from your background, someone with your history, someone who looks like you, sounds like you, carries the specific constellation of your fears and your scars. The belief that you are destined for the middle or the bottom or the respectable struggle that keeps you exhausted but never truly free, that belief is being hunted. It is being tracked through the forest of your subconscious by a predator that will not rest until it is devoured. And that predator is the truth. The truth that you were never meant to survive. You were meant to thrive. The truth that your family's story of scarcity is not your scripture. It is simply a chapter in a book whose ending you are now authorized to rewrite. The truth that the fortune coming to you is not an anomaly. It is a restoration. It is the return of what was always yours, but that you were too afraid to claim. I am seeing the moment of the death, Virgo. The exact moment when the old self exhales for the last time. It is happening in a space that feels ordinary until it is not. It is happening in the shower, or in the car, or in the dark before dawn, or in the middle of a conversation where someone asks you how you are, and instead of lying, you tell the truth that you are dying, that you are terrified, that you do not know who you are becoming, but you can no longer be who you were. And in that confession, the final breath leaves. The eyes of the old self close, the hands go limp, and there is a silence. A terrible, holy, absolute silence that lasts for 1 second or 1 hour or 1 week, depending on how brave you are willing to be in the emptiness. And then the fortune, it does not arrive with trumpets. It arrives with a whisper that sounds like your own voice finally speaking without doubt. It arrives in the form of a phone call, an email, a letter, a conversation, a realization that turns a dormant asset into an active one. It arrives in the form of an idea that you finally have the courage to act upon because the old self, who was afraid of failure, is no longer there to vote against you. It arrives in the form of a person who sees your value without needing to be convinced, who offers you an opportunity that matches your magnitude, who hands you a check or a contract or a key and says, "This is yours. It always has been. The fortune is coming, Virgo, and it is bringing with it an army of changes that will make the death feel like a bargain. You will move. You will upgrade. You will leave behind the neighborhoods, the habits, the haunts, and the ghosts of your former poverty. Not because you are ashamed of where you came from, but because you are no longer willing to let where you came from dictate where you are going. You will become the first millionaire in your family, or the first billionaire in your lineage, or simply the first person in your bloodline who looked at the ceiling of limitation and decided to install a skylight. And the view from that skylight is going to blind you with light at first. You will need to adjust. You will need to learn to wear sunglasses indoors. You will need to learn that wealth is not a sin, that desire is not a crime, that having more than enough is not a betrayal of your roots, but a fulfillment of their unspoken prayers. The death you are facing is the death of guilt, the death of the belief that your success must be balanced by someone else's suffering, the death of the idea that if you win, someone else must lose. The fortune that is coming is not a pie slice taken from another's plate. It is a pie that did not exist until you baked it with the heat of your own transformation. It is new wealth, fresh currency, money that has never been hoarded or stolen or exploited, money that is being minted specifically for the new economy of your soul. And the economy of your soul operates on generosity, not scarcity, which means this fortune will multiply the more you allow it to flow. It will grow the more you share it. It will stabilize the more you refuse to clutch it in a fist closed by fear. You are facing death, Virgo, and I know the face of that death looks like everything you have ever been afraid of. It looks like the end of love, the end of safety, the end of the familiar. It looks like standing on a cliff with no visible bridge to the other side. But the other side is where the fortune is waiting. The other side is where your real life has been living without you, accumulating experiences, deepening its color, preparing a feast that would have poisoned the old you, but that will nourish the new one. You cannot bring the old self to the banquet. She does not have the stomach for it. She would find a way to complain about the gold plates. She would apologize for taking up space at the table. She would offer to wash the dishes afterward just to ease her own discomfort with being served. She cannot come. She must stay in the ground. and you must let her go. The funeral is not a sad event, though tears are appropriate. The funeral is a graduation, a coronation, a demolition ceremony where the old structure is brought down so the new city can rise. You are not losing yourself. You are finding yourself, the self that was buried under the rubble of other people's expectations, under the debt of ancestral poverty, under the weight of a name that was never allowed to mean abundance. That self is rising. And she is expensive. She is costly. She requires a fortune to maintain, and the fortune is being delivered. I am seeing your new life with the vividness of a memory that has not yet happened. I see you waking up in a bed that does not creak with the anxiety of the rent being due. I see you walking through a home where every object was chosen by you, for you, because it pleased you, not because it was on sale or because it would impress someone else. I see you signing documents that transfer wealth into accounts that bear your name with a confidence that does not waver. I see you looking at your reflection in the mirror of a luxury that does not intimidate you because you know that luxury is just comfort without apology, and you are done apologizing for being comfortable. I see you funding the dreams of people who supported you when you were invisible, not out of obligation but out of overflow. I see you becoming the ancestor who breaks the spell, the one whose descendants will speak of you as the turning point, the death and the rebirth, the moment when the family story changed from we never had enough to we have always been abundant. That is the fortune, Virgo. It is not just money. It is the currency of a completely rewritten existence. It is the wealth that allows you to be generous without being depleted. It is the wealth that allows you to say no without being afraid. It is the wealth that allows you to create without starving. It is the wealth that allows you to love without keeping score. And it is waiting on the other side of this death with the patience of something that knows it belongs to you. So face it. Face the death. Open the door to the room where your old self is taking her final breath and sit with her. Hold her hand. Thank her for her service. Thank her for keeping you alive when survival was the only victory available. And then let her go. Let the light go out of her eyes. Let the breath leave her body. Let the name she carried be carved into the headstone, and let the headstone be the foundation of the monument you are about to become. The coffin is closed. The dirt is being thrown. The mourners are leaving. And as the sun sets on that grave, something else is being born in the dark, something that glows, something that knows its own worth, something that does not need to be convinced that a fortune is coming because it can already smell the rain of gold on the wind. You are facing death, and death is facing the most formidable opponent it has ever encountered. A Virgo who has finally decided to live. Rise from the grave. Wipe the dirt from your eyes. The inheritance is being read. The will has been found, and everything, everything, everything is yours.